we are quite excited about today's topic.
I am really excited about this topic because I think it's like we've just gone through like so much sports times in the last
last few weeks, last few months.
Yeah.
I think like this whole like summer period has been so much sports.
Yeah, because we've had the Euros, and then I mean obviously like the Grand Slams for tennis. I watch them all the time.
Yeah,
anyway,
same.
And we've had the Olympics this year.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
I think it's also been really nice because we missed out on all sports last year. Like, there was no sporting events.
I mean, there was Formula One. And
yes, there was Formula One, which is,
it.
you were like,
like, I think it's going to be really weird, like, going back to, like, normal life, like, post-COVID life, and, like, not being able to watch
all the races
if, like, we're out or doing something. Like, I think I'm going to actually have anxiety.
So far we've managed. We just go to someone's house and turn it on.
Oh, because I'm notorious for it now. I'm like, I don't give two shits. Like, it's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
You're listening to Brown Girls Don't Cry with Arushi and Manya.
Oh, right. Maybe we should actually say that, like, our topic today is sports.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Our topic today is sports. We're talking about sports.
But more importantly, like, women in sport.
Yeah, women's representation in sport. Yeah. Like we said, all these sporting events have been happening kind of back to back, and we've been really involved in it. And now with the Olympics happening, wrapping up, I just feel like a lot's happened, and it felt like the right time to kind of get into this whole discussion. And we ended up doing a lot of research.
Oh, yes.
Which was super eye-opening, and I feel like I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know. Some stuff, like you're just kind of aware of, but when you go really into it, you're kind of shocked to learn, especially when you're looking at like female representation in India, which is still, it's still growing. It's still really, it's not where we want it to be in terms of female involvement in sports.
I mean, it is like when we looked at like the stats and stuff, like, and I said this, they're amazing, but also we usually come back with more women achieving medals than men when it comes to like the Olympics.
What was the stat? Out of the last 9 Olympic medals that we've won, 7 have been female. That's amazing. Like, and really.
But this happened, like, honestly, I remember having this conversation or having this like thought last Olympics as well. Where I was like, wow, like actually our women have really come through, and they're the ones that don't get any recognition.
Yeah.
Like, we were reading so many stories when we were researching about this, and like so many of our women athletes were like upset at getting a bronze. It wasn't like good enough for them, but it's like, okay, yes, it's a global stage, and yes, it's the Olympics, but you're winning golds and you're winning competitions away from the Olympics, and your entire worth is not
just
based on this one event that happens every 4 years.
I know, they're like world champions and Commonwealth and this and that, and they've won gold in all of these other things, and then if you narrow it down to just the Olympics, then that's such the competition pool is so much larger. Like, when you're sending that many women versus like other countries sending, it's you're gonna see a difference.
100%. And then you have the pressure, and then you have everything comes into play. I mean, then you go into funding.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, such a big question, like we were looking at it, was like, why is India so bad at the Olympics? Is like literally
what is our thing? 33 medals?
We have 33 medals in our total entire like lifetime of attending the Olympics.
From the last Olympics. So this doesn't count the current medals that we've won.
Does it not? Okay, yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing
I don't know, because I read it on Wikipedia, so it could very well be including, because that gets updated regularly. So I'll check that, but it could be 33 including this year. If it's 33 without, then we're at 38 now?
Yeah, we've got 5.
Okay. So we'll see we'll see which one happens. But it's so funny because you go on to like all these like Reddit and Quora and all these things, and like the major question is, why is India so bad at the Olympics? And I'm just like, firstly, the question is so demeaning. Like, wow. And then, but the things that people are talking about are the most basic things, our infrastructure, the funding that our sports gets versus other, like, countries are like bleeding money into their sports, and we are cutting funds in Olympic years, cutting like 200 crores of funding, and then you want us to go and win like 100 medals. It's not going to happen.
No, like, what did they say? Like, the UK puts in like millions of pounds into winning one medal.
Yeah.
Right? And we cut back.
We cut back 200 crores.
So I feel like in general, like, I mean, seemingly from like everything that we've read, our government has kind of like tried to put in more money and put in more time and like,
well, they started that new the Olympic organization that they started, which I think they started right before the Rio Olympics,
right,
which is now like they're funding,
so, I mean,
they're funding
like,
Olympic athletes.
There is funding going, like, coming in at a grassroots level to kind of grow our pool of like athletes and contenders. But I think like a major thing that kind of kept coming up is that like we also like minus like, I mean, as an Indian population, we have so many people that have kind of immigrated elsewhere and moved to the US, UK. We talk about this all the time on our podcast. And it's interesting because we don't actually see many athletes of a South Asian diaspora competing even like, you know, for other countries. Yeah. As we do see like, you know, like African immigrants, people that have immigrated from Africa and whatnot, compete for the US or the UK or any of these, to be honest. We don't see that kind of South Asian diaspora infiltrate through like even the migration systems and stuff. Which then begs to question, like, where are we? Because there is so many of us in the world, whether, and this is like South Asian, so you're talking about Pakistanis, Sri Lankans, Bangladeshis. None of us, Indians as well, obviously, but none of us are like represented to that same level.
I think we found like 2 maybe that had represented the US or something. It was really tiny amount.
I mean,
in the recent years. I'm not saying like overall, but like recently.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't many.
No, it wasn't a lot.
And it just kind of begs the question, like, it goes back to the same kind of thing that, like, without representation, how are we as, like, brown people, forget women, like, as a population, how are we meant to see that that we can do these things if we can't see people already doing them? Like, you know.
I think there's like a theory that once something is done by one person, it's so much easier to do. Like if you break a world record in something, you'll see like 50 people break that record sooner than that first person took to break it.
Of course.
Because it's just about like representation, seeing that someone is capable of doing something and knowing that your body is able to actually complete doing something like that. You are able to push yourself further than your brain is allowing you to believe.
But I mean, we've seen that in recent years in like wrestling and boxing, our representation has gone up quite a lot because there have been like
so many more.
We've seen one person do it and be successful, and in that we've then been like, oh, she's done it, I can do it. He's done it, I can do it. Yeah. But if we don't see that across the board, how are we meant to like push forward?
Yeah, exactly.
Even as like you know, generations to come, if they don't see if all they see is representation in like STEM and, you know,
you're
IT
automatically,
and all of that, you're automatically going to be geared towards that life.
You're inclined to believe that is what you are built for, which is not necessarily true.
Right.
It's just that you've seen all of your ancestors go in that direction. So it's like, clearly this is not the path for me, which I don't, as soon as you see more of it happen, more of it will happen.
Yeah.
A lot of these Indian athletes have actually started their own teams and their own like committees and stuff like that. Like one of the two Indian women who've like represented India for football started a thing in Calcutta where she's training like boys and girls together. There's no like difference. It's all for free. They come, they train with an Olympic athlete, which I think is amazing. And like she's just trying to create a kind of environment where girls and boys can feel like they can actually dedicate time and do things and learn things and have a way to inculcate sports into their lives.
So this is very similar to like what's going on in like the skate scene in India. I watched that movie Skater Girl on Netflix in prep for this because I just wanted to see like what it was all about. It's quite interesting. A girl who lives in like rural India becomes really infatuated after being like introduced to skateboarding, not knowing what it was, and kind of like the trials and tribulations of like being a girl in rural India who likes this really random sport, right? Which society and like skating is not something that was accepted even in Western culture for the longest time. It was
as a sport. Yeah.
Forget it being a sport. Just in general, like skating was like rebellious.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
It's like skaters and like graffiti and
I know.
like all of that stuff
Do you
is
remember
like connected,
as kids when you'd see like people at a skate park, they were like the shady people?
Yeah, or like they were like those cool people that you just didn't know how to infiltrate.
Yeah.
But actually the skate community, like the skating community is so tight knit and such a like forced together. The amount of things that they have done for the sport on the whole is amazing, right? So I think like, so after watching that movie, I mean, it was quite a typical story for, just the general...
In terms of like being a movie.
Yeah, in terms of being a movie. But I found out later that it was based on a true...
so this girl was...
true life story. But it was really interesting because the people, like international pro skaters, women, who came to India, I don't even know why, but they were in India and they were like, oh, we need to like grow the interest of like females in the sport over here. Have gone out of their way to like build skate parks, run like skate clinics for boys and girls, but prioritize girls and say like, you know what, like if you want to skate, come out, skate before the boys, like we'll put you first, so that they didn't feel like intimidated by like dudes just coming out. And it's a great way. The school dropout rates have been less because they had a no school no skate policy. Because they've built parks, there's no like vandalism or like breaking whatever, like
because this is like their place to come do that. Why would you?
Exactly. And like we haven't talked about it yet, but we can talk about
that's new
about like the kind of like the discipline that sports creates for you. I mean, you've been in a lot of sports. I've been in and out. So, and like, it's kind of helped in so many things as an adult, the discipline that comes with like being at practice sessions at weird hours in the morning, or like needing to do extra things. How do you come together as a team, like battling different perspectives, or like what one should do here, what one should do there. So in all of those things, like sports can teach you a lot. Any sport can teach you those skills, and those are life skills. So I don't know, like to not have sports be such an important part of like your growing up is like kind of crazy.
I know, for us, right? Because it was so integrated into our entire schooling experience.
I mean, PE was a class.
It was a class,
right?
And I think everyone has PE as a class, but I've talked to many people about this where like they were just like, oh my God, the kind of, again, this goes back to infrastructure and like the kind of facilities that we were provided at our schools and the kind of things that we were able to do. And also, over and above that, the competition levels at our schools where we were competing, you know, in Hungary we were competing country-wise with like all the international schools. You did that in Singapore. In Cody we were competing on a state level, and we like that really gives you that sense of like, this is something
bigger than
me. And I, you know, you dedicate a lot of time to it. And I read when we were preparing for this, I read an article about how they did all these like studies, and kids who are involved in sports are less likely to, you know, fall into drugs or bad habits, are more likely to graduate, are always have, you know, you need a certain like GPA, right, to participate, especially in like inter-school sports and stuff. So your grades are always better, like all these things. And colleges give sports scholarships even if you don't need, I mean, even if you're not necessarily going to play that sport in their school, they'll give you a sports scholarship. So like, it's a great, great tool to get where you want to go, no matter where that is. And I think that's kind of lost on some people, and they think it's a waste of time.
But I think, I mean, again, like, yeah, we were super privileged.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the facilities that we had made, like in Singapore, our track and our like entire like whatever like football and track facilities was used by like the Arsenal first team.
That was so cool when you told me that.
To train,
oh my God.
because they came to play a friendly in Singapore.
That's
or something
amazing.
Like that, and they literally used the SAS field, and it was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, we had like an Olympic-sized swimming pool. We had a like.
It was normal.
It was normal, and now when I tell someone, they're like, "What?
What the fuck?"
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never questioned it, and yeah, it comes
but in
back
that,
in a
like
way.
when I mean, it's also very normal for you at like some level to like choose what you want to like focus on, right? But even having like 10 years, you know, your first 10, 12, 13 years of like being involved in sports does change who you are as a person. But you also find it that like it's a lot more girls that have to like choose. Like, why is it that like so many more girls drop sports?
I don't know. Well, you know, there was this it was just good timing. One of these like influencers or something I follow, she just put up like one of those questions on her Instagram thing of like, did you play sports in high school? And if you did, like, why? Yeah, right? It was just such timing. Did you play sports in high school? And if like, did you go through all 4 years? If you didn't, what made you drop? Like, that was her question. And then her reference was she was on the volleyball team, and then by her senior year she was so tired of like sitting on the bench and being fat shamed and all these things by her coach that she was just like, fuck it, I just want to have a good time in high school. And so many girls responded saying, my coach fat shamed me, my coach told me like I wasn't good enough in front of the whole team, and it was just so degrading. And I just felt like,
but I can vouch for that, because in Dubai the competitive nature of like the sports culture and the competitiveness that existed made me so cautious of trying out for sports. It wasn't that I was bad. In like a class, I would be like all up in your face. I'd be like, I was never one of those girls that like didn't want to play. But when it came down to like trying out for teams, especially in Dubai, the level was just, I don't know if it was also like how intimidating sports culture can be, because this actually like continued through Durham, and I was on a team there, and I remember like it just threw me back to school, because I was a really quiet girl. I was quiet, like I didn't really speak much. I wasn't really like this bubbly like person, not in school, right? So for me to go out there and like find the confidence, like play a sport at like a level that I was like comfortable and like happy, it just didn't click, right? When I came to Cody, I remember like I joined late, and I think in PE we were already like we were playing volleyball, and I think the tryouts for volleyball had already happened.
Right, they happened really early.
They happened early, so I think I missed. I mean, not that I would have even tried out, but I remember we were doing it in PE, and who is it, Sarkar? He like, I don't know, like serving, whatever, like we're used to playing.
He was always looking out for who to,
And he was like, why don't you try out volleyball? And I was like, excuse me?
He's the one that made me try out for the track team.
But I was like, I'm shit at volleyball. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
we didn't have the greatest volleyball team.
Whatever. But I was like, I'm not that great at volleyball.
Yeah,
like,
right.
What are you talking about? What do you mean? He was like, Arushi, like, you should have tried out. When football season came around,
but isn't that also,
we played in PE, Beth was like, why didn't you try it for the football team? I was like, because I'm not good. She's like, Arushi, you're left-footed. Your skill would come if you actually played, like, you already can, like, maneuver a ball. Why didn't you try out? I was like, because when I was in Dubai, if I would have never been able to make these teams. Like, I stopped trying at one point. Like, I think through middle school, I would try out for everything for fun because I had the drive. By high school, I was like, I'm not going to make it anyway. What's the point? So all of that happened. And then you, like, cut to my master's degree in Durham and, like, randomly meeting, like, someone, like, one of the head girls in Chia, who is now one of my closest friends. But, like, first time I've met her, having a conversation about Chia, she's like, you've done it before? Come to tryouts. I was like, absolutely not. I'm not a tumbler. I'm not at this. I'm not at that. She's like, just come to tryouts, to, like, winning nationals. Like, I
think it's so cool weird, that you did it in a university setting, because I think I would have loved to have done something like that. My experience was so different from yours in that I was always on the teams. I was always, especially high school. I think middle school is where I kind of shied away a little bit through those, like, kind of puberty years, and I was just like, I'm not going to really get involved, and I just don't want to do all that. And then come, like, 9th grade, I got really into it, and I was on my track team, and I was on this team and that, but track was always my, like, number one. And from then went to Cody, joined that track team, and I loved that sense of, like, being part of something and, like, having that, like, team of people, because also I think, again, track started really early, like, the training and the tryouts for track started really early because our season was first semester. Second semester, there wasn't really anything. I think one trip maybe, and then field day. Because it started so early, I was like, oh, I'm good at this. Sarkar saw me in PE, and I was running really fast. He's like, come try out. And I didn't really know anyone, so it was a good way to, like, get to know people and, like, get involved in something on a school level. And I really, like, that was the attraction for me, and then I just loved it and ended up, like, almost tearing my hamstring, but that's a whole other story.
Let's not get into it. Sports injury is my forte.
Oh my God.
We've gone and got a grandma elbow now, so, shit happens. But I think, like, that was, like, the toxic sports culture though, right? Like, and that's something that continued, because I think in middle school and high school, it was like, especially being in these international schools with, like, really Americanized, like, sports systems. So, like, you have your basketball team and they're, like, the shit, or, like, the football team and they're, like, the coolest thing since sliced bread, and you're like, oh yeah, like, I play sport. Do you know what I mean? And it was so dumb, but it was so intimidating. I remember trying out in Durham and it being like, we get to wear the purple jackets because we're Team Durham, and the minute you're Team Durham, you're like some elite, ooh, look at me.
But
people just wanted to get on a team to be able to buy a purple jacket. It's that
way everywhere, right? It's,
no, I
it's
know,
the equivalent
but
of a letter jacket in
isn't that
high school.
Crazy though?
It is, but it has a lot to do. Do you think part of it has to do with media representation?
Yes, but I think that is where I lost, in high school at least.
Lost interest.
I lost interest because I'm like, I'm not out here. Like, if I want to play a sport, I think because I'd always played sports. Played tennis, I swam. It wasn't like for the glory of it. It was because I enjoyed it,
same.
right? But the minute that, like, this toxic culture started seeping in, I was like, ew. And I was like, do I really want to be part of this? No. Like,
no, I totally understand what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I want to be part of this toxic culture? no.
I get that.
And I think uni was the first time I was confident enough not to get carried away with it. So I feel like that hinders a lot of girls' perceptions of sport as well. Because if you're not really good, most of the time you're not even going to be looked at.
That's true.
Whilst like for boys, there are like so many teams that like, you know, you could be on the fucking G team and, you know, still feel like, oh, I'm playing football. You know what I mean? Whilst for girls, there would be A, B, that's it.
That's it. That's true. Yeah. I remember when I lettered in track, it was such an exciting time for me. It was like such a big moment, but it's exactly what you're saying. It felt like validating something that I didn't necessarily need to validate. Like I'd been doing it for the fun of it, but it reached a point where I was like, oh my god, I need this. Otherwise, what's the fucking point of all of it? Yeah. And it really became about that for a while. And I think after that happened, it felt like this point of validation came like there was a switch at some point. I think 9th and 10th grade, I really, really was in it for the love of it. And I didn't really care about and I was winning the most like gold medals and doing all of this, but I really didn't care because I was just doing it for the fun of it. And then when I switched into Cody, which was a much more competitive atmosphere, it really became about that. And you weren't winning so many golds. So you were like, okay, well, fuck the medals then. I'm going to like letter. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it to UD. I'm going to like...
funny.
It really became about that, and then...
Because Cody, for me, was, like, less it was competitive, but it
compared to
was
my...
less competitive than Dubai.
Compared to my American school, it was way less competitive. Compared to my Pune school, it was way more. So from what I just come from, where it suddenly seemed like, oh, those golds were really easy to get, now it's, like, a little bit tougher. Oh. And you gotta, like, push yourself harder, and it's just... It was a way more... But I think also the concept of like being in boarding school and having the ability to like have your coach say, okay, be at Bendy at 5 or 4:30 a.m. or whatever, and then you're going to run for 3 hours and then go to school. And it's just a way more like, it's just, you're in it entirely versus like when you're going to school, they can't call you to school at like 5 a.m. I mean, not in my Pune school because we were just so far away. Like, because when you're in the city and you're going to these international schools, they're kind of on the outskirts. So it works so it works really differently.
Still pull people in.
Yeah, no. In our thing, it was all after school. And then we'd be there till, like, fucking nightfall. So, I mean, I guess it's the same, but, like, there was just this... And then on top of that, I added in, like, rowing. So the days that I wasn't training, I was running around the fucking lake. And, like, it just became this... You're really in it, and...
See, I think also...
I just got very sucked into it.
I am a really competitive person, like, by nature. And I think I scare myself sometimes. So, when it comes to these things, I sometimes just back off.
Yeah.
As a coping mechanism. Because I know that if I get too into it, and if I get into that scarily competitive mindset, I will be more at a loss than anyone else.
Yeah.
So it just got to a point as well where I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's not worth getting so much like pent up energy and anxiety and feelings for this.
I mean, but we're talking about this on a very on a high school level. And now
can you imagine?
Can you? I can't because like now take it to the level that we are finally discussing of Naomi Osaka or Simone Biles actually taking a stand and being like, do you understand the mental state that I'm in? And like Simone going out and saying like, I wanted to do this Olympics for me because I did the last one for everybody else. And it doesn't feel like I'm doing it for me. And to take that stand and say it's such a huge toll. And we felt it on a high school level. Like, when you're in front of the whole world, oh my God, can you just imagine?
No.
Scary.
I actually cannot imagine.
I cannot. I tried. I really was like, geez. And then, on top of that, I was reading all this stuff about, like, it's so, right now, because of the pandemic, they have no family with them. The entire training process up to the Olympics has been so different from what they're used to as athletes, because it's just been so controlled and so restricted in so many ways. Everything just feels off, and then you you're in on this like platform where the whole world is watching you and judging you.
Yeah.
The judgment levels are so high. Looking at our Indian athletes and the judgment they faced.
Mate, I cannot even begin to like go into this our fucking viewers,
The disdain we have for them.
and like how they sit on their asses
I
and
know,
judge.
right? You're fucking watching a TV and you're judging this woman who is out there representing your country and fucking killing it. And you're like, oh my god, but she didn't bring home a medal. I'm sorry, what the fuck are you doing?
Get the fuck out. You go do it then.
I love that it's female athletes that are coming forward and doing all this and like Simone's whole thing made Michael Phelps come out and say, what she's doing is, the pressure is huge. Other athletes have also come forward and said, we did also that picture of Simone.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I think like in the beginning I was like, oh, like that's so cool. She's taking that cartoon. We can in the video version we can like
put a little
thing. It was basically that cartoon, right, of like the podium with like the gold winner, silver winner, and bronze winner, and then another gal like leaping kind of
above them, right?
Above them,
yeah.
And in the first instance, it's very like, oh wow, yes,
yeah, it's a powerful
taking
image.
A stand for her mental health, and all of that. But then I remember reading comments under, like on Instagram, and the comments under it was like, we shouldn't put, like what Simone is doing is amazing in itself, but that doesn't mean that the other athletes who have decided to continue competing and putting themselves right, in their pressure points and in that pressure zone are wrong to do so. And basically, like, it's not about one above the other. Yeah. It's about everyone working together.
Yeah.
Which made me kind of look at that image a bit
very differently. I feel like when I think I had the same reaction when I first saw it, because it is such a powerful image. You're just like, oh my god, wow. The first thing that comes out to you is like, yeah, she's taken such a powerful stance, and it really is, it's changing the conversation. But then when you look at it again, you're just like, but her whole point was to make you aware of the pressures of those people that you've now kind of put under her in terms of the image, and I don't think that's what she was trying to do.
I don't think it was anything to do with her, though. It's obviously
no, it's not. Yeah, it's not. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think that it's taken out of context from her stance, and so I just feel it was an interesting image.
I mean, even if we look at like Naomi's whole thing with Roland Garros, when she decided that she was going to withdraw from the competition because she didn't want to do press interviews, and obviously the association didn't like that
and fined her and some.
It was quite interesting because Calm, the app, the mental health app, actually offered to pay for Naomi's fine, which is really amazing.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, and
but
speaking of fines, that whole gymnastics
Pink
team
was
thing.
for the volleyball team.
Was it? Sorry, not gymnastics. Yeah, was it volleyball or handball? It was one of them.
The
shorts versus bikinis.
I think it was beach volleyball.
Yeah, and that was a huge thing. I mean, what the hell? That really upset me. Like, it's not even like they've like decided to change it up much. They wore like this much more material, and they're getting fined for it. Like, what is your what?
I think like in some of these things, like sports committees are really weird about stuff like this, and like uniform. But also, why is that uniform? Like, why? What is the difference between them wearing like bikini bottoms and
in fact
shorts?
I feel like the shorts would be more comfortable, right? Because at least you're like you feel secured, and you're like, because you're like jumping around. And
but wasn't there something like the last Olympics where like this kind of came up as an issue or whatever, but like they were the way to get more people to view beach volleyball was to have the girls in underwear. We can fact check
I
that.
feel like that would be it in any case. Like, I think that's a huge part of why they're so against it, is they feel like people are coming to watch them be all, like, sexy, right?
But sexualized.
But why are you
women.
sexualizing the sport? Like, they're top tier athletes. You're not doing that to a man. So why does she have to look sexy while playing the sport? What's the need? There's absolutely no need. There's no need. But you just want more views and more whatever. And so put her in the tiniest little bikini that we can find and make her play a very difficult sport.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
I think this is a good segue into one of our own athletes, Sania Mirza, and the fatwa that she received.
The things you find when you, like, scour the internet, really. That was... I mean, you're the one that did the research on this, but, like, that was crazy.
Yeah, dude. So when she was 18, she must have, like, just started competing or whatever on a more global stage. Maybe she had been for a while, but, you know, 18 is really
adult.
young as
Well, yeah, you move into the...
2004 or 2005 this was. It's quite a while ago. She actually received a fatwa for inappropriate clothing on a tennis court. Look
what
at
do they want them to wear?
Like, Sania has always worn, like, very respectable clothes for, like, a tennis player.
Yeah.
Like, she's not, like, you know, like, showing her ass any more than she needs to, or wearing, like, I don't know, like, what even can you wear?
Exactly. But that's the point, isn't it? Like, let them wear what they want to wear. If they're playing the sport, they're doing it, they're the ones at this huge level. Like, wear what you want to wear. Okay, fine, you have your uniform rules and such, but, like, allow it to cover a larger diaspora of people, and, like, just a larger...
But again, this didn't come from the committee, did it?
No, this came from the community.
The religious community, which I think was crazy.
No, it's absolutely insane. For dressing? Like, why?
I mean, on one level, you have, like, you know, our like, country basically going out and saying we don't have enough sports people out there on the global stage, and then the minute we do, they're all, like, shat on.
Yeah.
Like, hello?
No, but it really feels like this. Can you ever win? What will make you happy? Not that that's anyone's end goal, but, like, what will make you happy in order to appreciate the people that are representing your country, appreciate the amount of time and effort and mental strength that is required to do any of these things, and then, like, go and say, oh, you didn't win a medal, so everything you've done and all the effort you've put in absolutely doesn't matter. That's not true. There was someone who, one of our athletes this year at Tokyo, someone went on Twitter and was like, oh, they just went to have fun and participate. And people were like, do you understand the process of qualifying for the Olympics? It's not you can't just walk in and say, okay, I'm here to have fun. Hi. I'm just gonna try and participate. No, like, she's gone through a grueling process to be there. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? She's not there to just have fun. Like, it doesn't work like that.
No.
And that's the other thing. Like, none of these people that are going out there and saying, oh, they didn't get us a medal, are actually following these athletes in any way. I mean, we already talked about how we're bad for it. We're not watching half of these sports, like hockey and stuff, that are actually bringing home medals. On a regular
basis, no.
Right? Like, and you're not following it. Every 4 years is the Olympics. Have you watched these people in the last 4 years? No. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know how much training they've done. You don't know how many other medals they've won. It's just when they go to the Olympics and then you're like, oh, India's not bringing home medals. And you have to look at, like, the entire thing and understand, what are we providing to these athletes as a country in order to actually allow them to compete on a fair level with all these other countries.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, also when you look at our, like, you know, the disparity in our country and the difference between the rich and the poor, right? I think it's easier as for, like, us as, like, you know, to pick up more highbrow sports, because individuals that come from a wealthier background can self-fund themselves. You know, sports like tennis or golf or, you know, badminton,
Yeah.
those kinds of sports where it's an individual athlete going in. A lot of us, coming from international schools and whatever, but still being Indian passport holders, we can like be the change for a lot of those things. And, you know, having children of like immigrants who are our age and younger, we can push that forward because we've had the facilities, we've had the infrastructure, we've had all of those things. But to do that on a national level for like team sports, that is like another ball game altogether, because that has to be government funded. Like if you look at our hockey team, like most of them come from like absolutely nothing.
Remember that Instagram? That was also really interesting. That Instagram post about each of them and their backgrounds, and like they're from very meager backgrounds in small towns. Half these people are not even from major cities. So the kind of think about that infrastructure. Think about what they're like. We read an article about like how half these people started with using bamboo sticks. Like that was a huge thing. I mean,
or if they get training, it's through army.
So many of them have gone and focused on a sport in the army, and then that has led them to. In fact, national. I think one of our is it an archer or a shooter? Was a shooter this year. He is an army officer. He's an active army.
I think a lot of them would be from army, ex-army or whatever.
So, I mean, it's like finding a loophole almost, rather than actually having a clean path of like, we are going to build an Olympic team and we're going to build that level of Olympic athletes and we're going to actually fund that. No, we're going to cut 200 crores in an Olympic year. That's what we're going to do. And then go and complain about how we're not bringing home medals.
But I think like today, the younger generation are asking these questions. Like why we started questioning it and these guys are pushing it more. Yeah. So it's like we do have like a few golfers now in the Olympics. We have been consistently winning badminton medals, you know, so these other sports are kind of coming through and we can see that change a little bit more.
Wasn't Sindhu the first Indian athlete ever to win 2 Olympic medals?
I think so.
Yeah, she just won bronze, right?
She just won bronze.
She's the first ever Indian athlete to win 2 Olympic medals.
Yeah.
The thing is, I feel like if this was a dude, that would be like on the front page of everything. And for some reason, you have to actually go into Google and like start researching and have people, like one article come up about this. Same with our female Indian cricket team. The captain of that team, Mithali, I can't remember her last name, she is the only Indian cricket captain to ever take her team to the World Cup twice.
Over men and women.
Both, men and women. No male Indian captain has ever made it to the World Cup twice. She is the only one. Is that a stat that you knew about until we researched it? No. Like, that's huge, especially when cricket is such a major thing. But is female cricket a huge thing? No. But we made it to the World Cup twice under the same captain. That's amazing. That's something to be appreciated and celebrated. And why aren't we putting more money and more interest into that?
Yeah. I think that, like, honestly, we really need to, like, put more girls in sports.
Yeah.
Because it teaches you so much life skills that, like, I think boys kind of almost take for granted now, because you almost expect a guy to, like, get into sports. I mean, that's also, like, alpha male, like, that is also wrong in itself. Like, if a guy doesn't want to play a sport, he shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
But he is more likely to be introduced to sports.
Also be supported in doing the sport. Like, all these families of these athletes, whether they're the Olympic ones or just generally national athletes, were unsupportive of this whole concept, because they were like, what will people say? How will you make money? How will you get married? How can you run around in a short skirt? Like, why are these factors?
They're national athletes.
They're representing the country, and you care about how short their skirt is? Like, where is the importance being put? Because clearly, to me, it seems like it's just on all the wrong things, and that is, I still think the change hasn't even started. Like, we're still hearing about it with our Olympic athletes today. So we're not even seeing that change yet.
Like, girls aren't even, like, expected to like sports. Like, if I tell, like, I'm super into Formula One, right? I'm, like, you've seen
you are.
me and, like, my breadth of knowledge into Formula One, right? It's something I've been
And your
watching.
excitement and your passion and all of it, yeah.
Oh my god, do you know how many guys I've spoken to that are like, oh, I've never met a girl that's, like, disinterested in sports?
Yeah.
And I'm like, excuse me?
It's like, it's very
what
highly
the
dismissed. Even this
hell?
episode, I was like, I wonder how many people are going to hear us, two girls, sitting here talking about sports and dismiss us as, like, they don't know what they're talking about. It's
Oh, it's bound to happen.
It's bound to happen.
It's bound to happen.
100%.
I'm here for it.
I know. Like, you can't look cute and have, like, nice long hair and look pretty and be talking about sports. Like, that's just not...
Why the fuck
Why
not?
the fuck not? But, let's see. I think people are going to be very dismissive and be like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about.
You.
Yeah, we see you. We know who you are.
It's so stupid. It, honestly.
What? Why?
You know, but also, like, this is where, again, like, I'm going to go back to it, that whole idea of representation. Like, if we don't actually put women's hockey on TV, right, how are, like, our, like, girls today going to know that that's even a possibility for them?
And, of course, our favorite thing, media representation. How many things, like, there are so few shows, so few, like, movies about female athletes.
No, the only time that they get made are if, like, that woman is successful. Like,
Even then, it's so small.
It's very small.
Even then. And then it's like, oh, did she struggle? Was it, like, a really hard journey? Was there, you know, like, so
it'll
it can
be
be, like...
about, like, motherhood or
Yeah.
all the really, like, female,
Yeah.
feminine aspects that, like, you
100%.
would expect
100%.
a woman to, like,
I
feel.
remember when there was a show, I think it was like a ABC Family show or something, called Make It or Break It, which was the first time I had seen, like, it was focused on female gymnasts
Right.
training to go to the Olympics. They were around our age when the show came out. We were around the same age, and it was so... they didn't make it seem easy at all. It wasn't like a fun thing. Like, there were struggles, and, like,
Yeah.
it was tough. And that was the first kind of, like, full representation I feel like I saw of something that intense and grueling in terms of female athletes. And then now we've got, like, that other one that came up on Netflix, Cheer.
Yeah, I think it was really nice to see a show on such a mainstream platform about cheerleading.
And what it really is.
And what it actually is, because every time I used to tell people that I was in cheer, I was doing cheerleading, it was like, oh, so do you just dance for the football team or, like, the rugby team or whatever? And I was like, mate, are you actually dumb? Like, I'm sorry, like, is that... I was like, we do have a pom team, but they're not for that either, so they do, like, more dance and tumbles and stuff. I'm part of the stunting team. Like, I would have to go into the entire... you know, thing.
You know what it reminds me of? What we talked about, I think, on our last episode of explaining our entire, like, background.
Oh,
it sounds like the same thing.
It is, like, as if I needed more of that, you know what I mean? Like, but also, like, if I'm not mistaken, cheerleading is one of the most dangerous sports, like, in the world. Like, you know, it is insanely dangerous and insanely athletic, and it's so dismissed. Like, I think people are only catching on to, like, gymnastics being so athletic now. Because before that, it was like, oh, like, you know, it's not, like, that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah.
And then in cheer, add, like, throwing people in the air and fucking
It's
all
so
of that.
scary.
It is so athletic.
Yeah, it's so athletic.
Why is it so dismissed? So I was really happy with cheer in
Yeah.
that way. Also, like, men and women were in the team, but it's quite a female-centric sport on the whole. Wait, people
But
don't even
do you think
it's sports.
that's why, right? It's so female centric because like people don't consider it a sport, and people are like, oh, that's for girls to stand on the sidelines and cheer for their football players and cheer for their basketball players, and that's not what it's about.
Okay.
That's what you see in a TV show, but that's not what it actually is. It's super competitive.
Media representation.
It's so competitive. It's so athletic. I mean, damn. You have a screw in your arm. Like
I've got a scar to prove.
exactly. Like it's so impressive, and watching cheer and like actually even for me, I knew because I had also been like exposed to actual cheer teams, but just watching the competitive level in that show, well, it was like a docu-series, right? But it was so eye-opening, and it was just like, it's insane. It's insane. I remember even in Make It or Break It, like they had some male characters who were competitive gymnasts, and it was very, because that again is like very geared towards females in terms of what you see and what people think, and like it's more again dance and
But
rhythmic oriented,
thing, right?
but it's
like,
so athletic.
Oh, if you're like that's the other thing, is that if it's a female centric sport, it's probably easy.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay, you try.
You try, please. Try, because oh my god, I remember just doing gymnastics in PE. Like, you were doing the most basic shit, and it was still so, like, intense.
Yeah, try doing that with, like, in people's hands.
No. No. Oh, good. I have enough trust issues. In terms of, like we said, in terms of media representation, we still couldn't find that much. I mean, we have the general ones that we've actually watched or seen growing up, and there were a lot of shows that incorporated sports. Like, my favorite, One Tree Hill, was very centered around basketball. So they did focus a little bit on, like, the whole competitive nature of it and the mental health factors and stuff off those players. But not in the way where, like, a show like Spinning Out, which came out on Netflix, they really, like, the main girl, the main character has bipolar disorder. And she basically has, like, this whole, when you come into the show, she's just starting up her Olympic career again after a break.
Okay.
So she's a little bit older, she's gone through a little bit more, and she's really out of practice. And they are figure skaters, or
right.
like,
yeah, figure skaters.
So that again is so,
oh my god,
so
mate. See, I think
intense.
Growing up, the only like movie we had like that showed a woman that was like doing a sport was Ice Princess.
Ice Princess and Bend It Like Beckham.
And Bend It, and she's
But then
the man, I
yeah.
guess, but it wasn't like a prominent thing.
Yeah.
Actually, no, there were a few Switching Goals.
Yeah.
Mary-Kate and Ashley, that was like a
But they were like
movie.
little
They were little
babies,
yeah.
you know? So I think there's a difference between showing like kids in like junior league to showing that competitive nature in a high school
or
setting,
was, like,
or like
dramatized, like Pretty Little Liars.
Oh my god.
Do you
No, that was
remember that?
oh yeah, that was too much. And then again, like all of these shows had the cheerleaders, but those cheerleaders were like the little, they stood on the set. Glee. And firstly, like,
also
cheerleaders
bitchy
do
as
not
shit.
just wear their uniforms all day, every day, all the time, everywhere. Like, why is that a thing in these shows? It's all they wear.
But also, like, why do they all have to be bitchy as shit?
Yeah, I don't know. One
Because
Tree Hill was
it's
kind of good
female
for
led.
it. Yeah. Yes.
Oops, I answered my own question.
Glee. Oh yeah, Glee was. Yeah. One Tree Hill, they were the main characters, so I guess they gave them more depth.
As well.
I was just thinking, I was trying to remember the name. I was like, was it Bring It Up or Bring It On? It was Bring It On.
Yeah. Gabriel Union.
Yeah.
Why are all of these so cheerleading centric if they're women? Or
Because
it's
I
either
think
cheerleading or figure skating.
Cheerleading, figure skating.
Some of them are football oriented, fine. I'll give it to them.
But then, like, the ones like you're talking about, like She's the Man and the Mary-Kate Ashley one, Switching Goals, those were, like, kid-centric, you know, like, middle school kid, like, you're not in that kind of competitive nature. Bend It Like Beckham was a little more competitive.
Were there any others?
But can't think of any others off the top of my head. I'm like really struggling to think of. Spinning Out was I'm really upset that Netflix canceled it, because I really feel like it was a little dark.
It was on my watch list.
It was dark, but at the end of the day, they were really like, they were showing you a different aspect of something that you'd seen very glorified in a lot of these other things, and this was really the gritty, like, hard side of it, the mental health and the physical torture that these people go through for this is immense. And make it or break it again, because I think it was like an ABC Family show. They were kind of on the edge, like they got a little bit gritty, but it was still like it has to be palatable. So you didn't see anything too bad. I think one of the main characters went through some issues, like she broke her neck or something, and then she couldn't compete for a long time, and she was actually like number one on the team and then hurt herself. And another movie that really, really stuck out for me, I think because again it was a female in a very like aggressive sport, was $1 Million Baby. Oh my god.
Insane. When
I watched that movie, I was like, whoa, this woman is like unstoppable. And it was so eye-opening, and Hilary Swank killed it in that role.
Yeah.
But like, that was just one of those moments where I really
such a strong woman as
such
well.
A strong woman.
So strong.
Yeah.
And again, like, didn't she get like called out for being too butch and stuff?
Yeah.
When that movie came
because
out?
she really had to build a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
People said she looked like a man and stuff.
That
like,
was one of her first movies, or like her kind of.
It was like one of her breakouts.
Yeah,
like definitely a breakout film for her. I think either she was nominated or won an Oscar. Like, it was a big movie.
We were quite young.
We were young.
But I still remember media just being like, "Oh, she's so butch," and like
they did that to Serena too.
Fuck off.
They did that to Serena too.
Like, not everyone. Again, it's dependent on your body type. Like, you know what I mean? Some people
I'm sorry, she could kill you.
Exactly my point. But like, what is the problem?
There is no problem. They just want you to be like dainty and tiny and feminine, and that's
But that was
acceptable.
Another thing, right? It's like, if you play sports, that means you're gonna, like, your legs obviously, like, I used to swim, and then I played a lot of tennis. So obviously my legs are strong, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have stronger legs. Mm-hmm. But then you get put into, like, suddenly it's like, oh, but you're thunder thighs.
That term is just generally like, why?
It's the most disgusting thing.
Why?
Like, why is that even a thing?
Why?
First of all, everyone's bodies are different. This goes back to our bodies conversation. And
this connects to so many things, this episode.
I know.
I think...
But isn't that the problem? Why so many girls shy away from sports? Because, oh, we can't look too muscly, or we don't want to look too butch, or we don't want our legs to get bigger, or we don't want... That's why so many girls didn't work out or go to the gym, or were like, we have to diet to lose weight. I mean, I guess for like Indian cinema, we have Chakti, which was quite, for when it came out, it was very like monumental almost.
It was huge.
They're focusing on our national sport festival, which was so under the radar, especially at that time, and focusing on the women's team rather than the men's team, which was another wow moment for everyone. Yeah. So, and I think the way that they went about it was really good as well. It's a movie that like sticks in my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it left a definite like impression, and you always come back to it as like, that was good representation.
I think it was done quite well.
Yeah.
On the whole, and picked up on a lot of these issues that we talk about today. You know, it's funny that very little growth has happened from those issues in 2004 to today,
almost 20 years later.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of insane, and it kind of makes you think like we need to check ourselves as a nation and be like, are things actually changing? If they are they only changing for men in sports? or are they changing for women in sports too? Individually, women in sports are excelling. When you look at wrestling, boxing,
When you look at our stats, yeah,
badminton,
our women
golf.
are bringing home way more medals than our men.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
And the prospects are insane. Like, we have our young golfer, Aditi,
Yeah.
who like just came fourth by like
Yeah.
a hair. I mean, in that way, golf is quite an interesting sport.
Yeah.
Like, just one shot can make the difference. So she has such a huge career in front of her, and
Exactly,
it's amazing, and
exactly.
it's really, really good to see, you know, our girls doing so well. Like, you know,
Yeah.
even like our hockey team, our women's hockey team this Olympics, like they missed out on bronze by like 1 goal, and they were playing so well. Like, that was such an insane match that they played against Great Britain. So I think like there's so many good things to take away from this Olympics. We've definitely come out of it a lot stronger as like an athletic nation.
We are progressively sending more people to the Olympics too. This year was our
Yeah.
record of 120 athletes, of which I think it was like 60, 50, I don't know. It was like it was almost equal in terms of men and women and the number of
No
almost.
way.
Definitely more men, but like almost equal.
But that's cool.
Yeah, almost
Wasn't it like
equal.
the first time we sent like 4 women to like...
The first time India ever sent women to the Olympics was in 1952. I think it was Helsinki. And we sent 4 women out of 64 athletes. So 60 men, 4 women. And so we've come a long way from 1952, you know?
We fucking hope so.
We've doubled the number of people in general, and females are definitely way more up there. But it's, like we say with so many things, it's so slow, and it's so upsetting to
But
kind of...
it's going to be slow. I
It's
mean,
going to
I
be.
will be like, I would just, in our lifetime, I would just hope to see a little bit more change. I don't expect to see, you know, monumental changes, because all of that starts at a grassroots level, and it is in the process.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can see a little bit of a difference, but again, for women, it's going to take that little bit longer, because it always does.
I mean, but you're seeing women also get into more of these, like, we have female wrestlers, female boxers. I was reading about one of our Olympic wrestlers. She's again from a really, really poor background, small town somewhere up north, and her dad had the choice of funding either her or her brother's wrestling career. Like, he couldn't do both, and he saw way more potential in her, and he was like, she's gonna be the one, and so we're gonna put all of our money into her, and he was right.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it really requires all of these puzzle pieces to kind of put it all together, because you have a girl go out there and be like, I want to be an Olympic wrestler. How many people are going to take you seriously? Unless you've got like this whole system supporting you and saying, okay, yeah, let's fucking do it. Let's get you to that platform, because that's awesome. And that's something we want to see, and that's something we want to do. Not cry about the fact that you're going to be getting punched in the face and stuff, because that's like up to you, right? You want to get punched in the face, go get punched in the face. You want to wear this.
But like, also part of like playing sports is like the falls and the
Yeah.
getting hurt and the injuries, and like getting back up from there stronger, right? So many people after getting injured come back to the sport more determined, and, you know, ready to like beat those odds. You know what I mean? Like, athletes train so fucking hard to come out of injury like better than before, and we can see that in so many sports on so many levels, like throughout time. And again, it's like a life skill, right? Fall down, you get back up again. But if we don't actually have women in sports doing these things, how are they going to learn those lessons? You know? Just in life, we can't have...
I mean, I love that a lot of these, like, older female athletes who have represented India in the past have come back and been like, we are going to try and make a change. But, like, we said until that infrastructure, until that government involvement comes, where they're like, we actually want to see our country on that level. You can't expect these few athletes to change everything. They're doing so much.
No, it has to come from a centralized, what's it called?
Which we just started also. We just started our, I will
time.
remember that name. I can't remember the name of the committee, but we just started it before the Rio Olympics. So it's still really new and they're still kind of figuring out how to funnel the right resources into.
Take away our funding.
Yeah, that was, I mean, really just the most brilliant idea, whoever thought of that.
The fact of the matter is we need more women in sports. We need more people from South Asian diaspora in sports. We need more representation.
And to do that, we need to create this, we need to take away the stigma, we need to build that culture, we need to provide women with more opportunity, allow them to see the positivity in doing a sport. It's so important. It's so important for so many reasons.
Well, we're ready now. We're ready for Paris.
Yeah.
Paris 24.
Yeah. I think so.
Get some more women out there.
Yeah.